All right, we are live now.
We're live.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Everybody,
Yeah.
welcome.
Morning.
We're here on this beautiful Saturday morning. We are going to wait just a couple minutes to let everybody get a chance to sign on. So we'll get started probably like around 10:04. We just want to make sure everyone has been able to access the link and get on. So
Yeah.
if you're on right now, hello. And hopefully you guys have some things good planned for this beautiful day. Casey and I were talking earlier about how we went outside and it was already pretty warm out.
Yes. We'll definitely be venturing out at some point soon.
Yeah, do you have anything else planned for today?
Probably gonna try and make some bagels. My sister-in-law has been making them, and they look great. So we're gonna give it a shot. Probably later on, since it's gonna be so nice. But that's the plan. What about you?
Nice. We just purchased our raised garden beds, so we are going to go pick those up and try to get started on our home garden at some point in the next few upcoming weeks. So hopefully we can get that installed today, though.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know what you want to put in it or no?
We definitely want to do like tomatoes, peppers, onions, and I took this awesome virtual class and I learned that those were tropical climate vegetables, so they will be when it's warmer. So I still have some time to get it set up.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have to find the optimal sunlight in my backyard. So every hour I'm glancing at certain spots to see how much sunlight is in that spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds complicated.
There's some science behind it.
But those are all the things you need to make pizza. So
It's you got it.
once you get it going, you'll be the new pizza place in Troy.
Yeah.
Definitely longing for sports as well. I've been watching a lot of old soccer games, um, which is fun, especially when you like a team like myself that used to be good but isn't as good anymore. Um, yeah. So yeah.
I know I've been enjoying the the last dance on Sundays, so that's been something to look forward to each week. So
Yeah, we've been watching that too.
yeah.
I was gonna wait and do it all at one time, but I couldn't wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. NASCAR comes back soon, so that's
Yeah, that's
a couple
exciting.
weeks. That's
Yeah.
something. Might get into NASCAR for the first time.
Yeah. Well, it is 10:04 now, so we are going to get started. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first virtual workshop. This is our first one, so just bear with us if there's any technical difficulties. We'll be working through those. We hope that everyone has had a great week, and we're so happy that you could be with us on this beautiful Saturday morning. Today, we're going to be talking about your neck, your upper back, and your shoulder. You're going to see that we're going to talk about each one of these structures. We're going to talk about common causes of pain and injury at each of these sites. Then we're going to go through our quote unquote self checklist so that you can help identify what's causing the source of your pain. And then we're going to go over some at-home tips for things for you to do at home to prevent pain, or if you're in pain, to prevent it from getting any worse. So that's kind of what we have up ahead. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Casey.
And we are physical therapists at Choice Physical Therapy, and we are at our new Spiegeltown location. I also wanted to just let everybody know one of our other therapists, Erin, she is also with us this morning. She's working behind the scenes and she's going to be monitoring the comment section. So if at any point during our presentation you have a question, You can type it right in the comment section, and Erin's going to be able to answer that question directly, or she can guide it over to us so we can help answer it as well. So again, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your morning to be with us. At the end of the presentation, we are going to be posting a Google form that you can fill out because, like I said, we have kind of a self checklist that we're going to go through. And on that Google form, you can mark off how you felt with each movement we go through today. So if you want right now, you can grab a pen and paper so that you can fill that out live. And then at the end, you'll just be able to fill that Google form out. All right, so if you have your pen and paper ready, I'm going to get started with talking about your neck. So our head is connected to our neck and our shoulders by so many different muscles. And a lot of these muscles attach at the base of your skull. And that's what actually helps support our head and allows our head to move in so many different directions. I want to just take the next minute or so to talk about what neck pain could feel like. Because neck pain can feel like a lot of different things. You may feel pain in your neck. You could feel pain in your shoulders. As I mentioned, a lot of those muscles, they attach at the base of your skull. So you could have pain there. It could wrap around and give you a headache. If you have a pinched or irritated nerve, you could have pain that travels down your arm into your hand. You could have numbness or tingling that's in your arm or your hand. So even though that pain or numbness is not in your neck, the source of it could be your neck. Whenever we're having neck pain and we're in what we call a flare-up, it's common that we go into that fight or flight response and we're tight, we're guarded, we can't move. So when we have to turn and look and talk to someone, we do one of these moves where we turn our whole body. And that's normal when we're having neck pain, because if you move your neck, it's going to intensify your pain. So there are a lot of different things that neck pain can feel like. And now I just wanted to talk about some of those common causes of neck pain, because there are a lot of them. Most neck pain results from injury or irritation to one or more of our muscles, our joints, or the nerves that are in our neck. And this irritation is most commonly caused by poor sitting posture. And this is a big one right now while we're sitting at our desk or at our computer. If we're in this forward position where we're slouched over, and I know I'm guilty of it. I've mentioned that now that I'm doing more virtual sessions, I find myself at the end of the session, I'm in this nice rounded position.
Right.
And then I have neck pain. I'm sure Casey can relate to that as well.
Yeah. Often you finish doing something on the computer, you've been there for a couple hours, and then you're like, how did I end up in the position I'm in? And you know it's probably not the best, but it's a position that kind of comes on over that long time of sitting.
Yeah, so and it's not just when we're sitting at our desk. It could be if we're going on a long car ride when we're in our car. One thing that I'll mention at the end, a tip that I give for when we're in our car, has to do with our mirrors. So we'll stay tuned for that at the end for those long distance car drives. Another common cause of injury or pain for your neck is if you're sleeping in an unhealthy position. So when I'm talking to my patients, especially on their first appointment, and they tell me they sleep on their stomach, I kind of call them out on how if you're on your stomach and your head's turned one way for hours, that's going to put a lot of stress on that part of your neck. Or if you're the person that sleeps on your back and you have 2 or 3 pillows under your head, again, that's at hours that you're in that position, and that can be really uncomfortable for your neck. A lot of people also can experience changes in joints and discs over time, and that's due to that natural wear and tear that happens. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was about stress, because that's something a lot of us are experiencing right now. When we're stressed, as I mentioned, our body goes to that fight or flight response. Our muscles increase in tension, and that's going to put a lot of adverse stress on our neck as well. So there are a lot of things that can cause neck pain, and a lot of them are very prevalent right now, which is one of the reasons we wanted to reach out and have this workshop. I recently have worked with someone who I'd worked with in the past, and they started working from home, and they realized while they were doing their virtual sessions, their virtual meetings for work, that they were in that forwards position, and that pain that we worked so hard to get rid of was starting to come back. So we had our appointments virtually, and within 4 or 5 sessions, she was like, oh, I can't believe how much better I feel. And if I'm in my meeting and that pain's starting to come on, I know after I can do my stretches and it goes away. So that was why we wanted to go through this today, because we know a lot of people are in a similar position where our daily routines have been altered. And this is just to hopefully help you learn some strategies and maybe what's causing that source of pain for you. So if everyone has their pen and paper ready, we are going to go through our first few movements together. All right, so as we're going through, I'm going to describe the motion and Casey is going to demo. And when he's demonstrating, he's going to give us both a front and a lateral view to make sure that the movements are being performed correctly at home. So our first movement is called cervical flexion. So Casey is going to bring his chin down towards his chest. Perfect. So I want you to try that at home now. So you bring your chin down towards your chest. What we're looking for with this motion is for you to be able to bring your chin towards your chest without any pain. So that's a big thing that you're going to see as we go through all the movements. And I always joke around with my patients during their first appointment that I'm going to ask them if it was painful a lot. I'll sound like a broken record even. But that's because if it's painful, that's helping us paint a picture as to what's going on. So always note if any of these movements cause any pain. So hopefully you guys were able to do that at home and you marked down if you had pain or no pain or if it was difficult for you to do. And we're going to move on to our next motion, cervical extension. So this one, Casey, I'm going to have you look up towards the ceiling. So perfect. Do you see how Casey is looking up towards the ceiling? So at home, I want you to give this a try. You're going to look up, and what we're looking for is for you to be within 10 degrees of parallel, again, without any pain. Another thing that we look for during any of our assessments is if you have what we call excessive effort. So if you can look up towards the ceiling, but you're grimacing, you're wincing, it's really uncomfortable, that would be what we call excessive effort. Yes, you could do the movement, but it wasn't smooth, it wasn't easy, and there's something going on in there that's restricting your movement. So again, you'll see on the form, that's another column that you'll be able to fill out at the end of this session today.
Another thing, sorry, Sarah, to cut you off. Another thing with the last two that we went through is that if you're with someone and you're not sure how close 10 degrees to parallel is for either of those movements, is if you use your forehead as a guide. So if I come up into that cervical extension, I'm looking for my forehead to be flat in parallel with the ceiling. The same thing as if I go down, if I come into that cervical flexion, I'm looking for it to be flat with the floor. So if you have someone with you, you want to ask them how close it looks to that spot.
Yeah, that's helpful, especially if you have someone at home that can help assist while you're going through your home assessment. And the last two movements we're going to do for your neck are both rotation. So this is a motion that we can perform on both sides. So this brings in a new component to this. So we've talked about pain, we've talked about excessive effort, and now that we're doing something on both sides, we want to look for symmetry as well. So Casey, I'm going to have you turn your head and look over your right shoulder. Perfect. So now I want everyone to give that a try at home. So you're just turning your head to look over your shoulder. You're not turning your body. So what we look for with this movement is that you could get the tip of your nose to be at the middle of your collarbone. That would be with a normal range without pain. And then we're going to do this same thing to the left. Perfect. So you, again, we're looking for the tip of your nose to be at the middle of your collarbone. So if you're going through and you notice, wow, I can really turn my head to the right, and then you only get about halfway with your left, that would be asymmetrical from side to side. And there's likely something going on with your neck that's causing that. So you're also going to see that on the form later. So those three things are pain, excessive effort, and symmetry. So if you notice that any of those movements cause pain, they were really difficult to do, or you couldn't turn your head as much one way or the other, take note of that because we'll have a form for you at the end to fill out.
Hey guys, great job, Sarah. I know we just had a few people just join on. Would you mind going through those 4 movements and just let them know about that we're trying to mark down? So if you could just demonstrate them just one more time.
Yep.
A few people just joined on. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Sarah.
Hi, everybody that just joined.
Hi, everybody.
So we are going through some different neck movements, and Casey is going to be demonstrating them. So we'll start with our first one, cervical flexion. So you want to bring your chin down towards your chest. Perfect. And if you have a pen or paper, you just want to write down if this movement caused any pain or if it was difficult for you to do. And now we'll move on to the second motion that we did, cervical extension. So this is going to be looking up towards the ceiling. So just like Casey's demonstrating there, and all the motions just coming from your neck. You're not moving the rest of your body. Perfect. So again, on that sheet of paper, write down if it was painful, not painful, if it was really difficult to do, or if you could only do it by moving your whole body. Those are all things to take note of as you go through these motions. And our last 2 movements we did were rotation. So Casey's going to look over his right shoulder. Again, it's just happening at his neck. He's not turning his whole body. And we're going to do this on both sides. So we're going to turn to the right and to the left. And we want to take note of how each side feels. If one side feels different than the other, whether it's tighter, more difficult, painful, just like that little grimace Casey had there. All of those things are helpful if you take note of those because, like we mentioned, that paints a picture to what's going on. Casey, do you have anything else you want to add in for any of those movements?
No, I think we covered it.
All right, so we are going to move on to the next part. Casey's going to talk about our shoulder and our upper back, and then he has 4 more movements that we're going to go through together as well.
Right. So as we transition from talking about our neck to our shoulder, it's very easy to do so because there's a lot of crossover in the muscles that go to each of those areas. So in general, your shoulder is a ball and socket joint that comes together with your arm, your shoulder blade, and your rib cage. They all come together to create that shoulder. Unlike other areas like your knee or your elbow, your shoulder is built for mobility. So that's why you're able to reach up in all these different planes to grab things around your home or do things at work, because the shoulder allows you to move in those planes because of that ball and socket joint. It's also important to note that your posture, like Sarah was talking about before, affects your shoulder positioning. So not only when you're sitting, or we call that static, but also dynamically, which means as you move, those postures or the way that you're doing those things, if you're doing them in an inefficient way or a way that is causing pain, that changes how that your shoulder's going to move, how your neck, your rib cage, and even the shoulder itself in that ball in the socket are getting you to do those things because of that crossover between these two areas. As Sarah touched on before, with the different kinds of neck pain, there's some similarities with the shoulder. So the thing with the shoulder and your neck is one leads to the other. They help each other out to some degree. So if there's pain in your neck, it's easy to note that you may, if that lasts for a long time, it may contribute itself to a change in your shoulder symptoms, or vice versa. You may have shoulder symptoms that span up to your neck. Shoulder pain can present in various areas surrounding the shoulder. So the front, back, side, even sometimes internally, you may feel pain, as well as down your arm, like Sarah talked before, are all areas that the shoulder can cause you pain with. Flare-ups in the shoulder are similar to the neck in that they can be caused by a movement restriction, pain with certain movements, or an inability to move certain ways, which changes how you do your daily tasks. So the causes of shoulder pain, as we already talked about, posture is a big one, but also with your shoulder being so mobile and we use it so often to pick things up or reaching, there's things that we do during our day that can cause, inflammation or tissue damage, altered shoulder positioning, movement inefficiencies that can lead to some of those shoulder dysfunctions we talked about before. Anything that you want to add in there, Sarah?
Yeah, you talked about it, but I know whenever I have someone in the office and they tell me they have neck pain, I always say, I'm also going to take a look at your shoulder. And same with vice versa. If they're coming in with shoulder pain, I'm going to take a look at your neck, because there is so much carryover, like you mentioned, between those two structures, that one is often affecting the other. And then you're kind of in this cycle that you want to get out of. So like you said, everything kind of comes together here. It's not just one thing, it's the whole picture.
Right. So just like before, we're going to go through some different movements of the shoulder. If you're following along with your sheet or you're doing it afterwards, take note of not only if you have pain or a difference in side to side, but take note of where the location of your pain may be. Like I said before, the area that you get it may correspond to different muscles versus other areas that you may get it. So we're going to start with what's called bilateral shoulder flexion, or basically both arms raised towards the ceiling. So
just making myself set up here.
She's going to get set up, and we're going to go through some of those shoulder movements.
Sorry, I don't want to knock my computer down here. Okay.
So what Sarah's going to do is she's going to keep her thumbs up, and she's going to try and raise both of them straight in front of her up towards the ceiling as high as she can. Good. So what we're looking for with this movement, just like before, is we're looking for symmetry, but we're also looking to see if there's any pain or there's any symptoms that come on from your shoulder, your neck, or down into your arm or even your hand. One thing to note with this is Sarah's doing a really good job of this, is you want to avoid arching. So as she goes through, and this view will give us the best demonstration of it, is if she's not quite there, but you do that little arch at the end because you feel like that's getting your arms completely overhead, that may tell you something about some movement restriction in your shoulders. The other thing we're looking for is an asymmetry. So if Sarah goes through in this view, showing maybe if one of her shoulders doesn't quite get as high as the other, that would be something you would want to mark on your page. Go ahead and take a second if you're following along, or just take a mental note of if you had any differences from side to side or pain with that movement. The next thing we're going to do is what's called the scratch test, or the Apley scratch test. What we're looking for is not only, as we talked before about the multiple planes of motion with your shoulder, is not only can you lift your arm up, but you can rotate with that joint. So if we go through, Sarah's going to set herself up so we can see her shoulder blades.
I'm going to just stand for this one.
Yeah. So she's gonna, with one arm, she's gonna lift her arm up and over her head and then reach as far down her spine as she can. And then with her other arm, she's gonna reach up and under like she's trying to put her coat on, and then try and meet those hands in the middle. So with this, each of those motions gives us information about different movements that your shoulder can do. Again, we're looking for an asymmetry here. So if Sarah goes to do that and she can't quite reach both fingers on one side, or there's a drastic difference in side to side, that would tell us more information about an asymmetry in the two shoulder joints. If you can mark on your page whether it's the up and over movement or the down and under that causes you pain and what side it is, that will tell you more information about not only which shoulder is painful, but which structures may potentially be the ones that are painful.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in because I do have an asymmetry that you can see when I demonstrate.
Right.
So when I come with my right arm, you can see I can touch both hands. And then when I switch sides and I come here, this is where I have all that excessive effort. I'll show you from the side. So you can see I start to arch, and that's not comfortable for me. And then I can't get these two hands together.
Right.
So one movement to kind of like Casey said before with the flexion, that arching is a big one. And sometimes when you go to move your arm behind your head, you could duck your head down to help clear it. So those would all be signs of excessive effort for that one. That's a complex movement.
Another thing that you can do is, if you have someone to look at your shoulder blades, is the movement that's up and under. So like you're trying to reach for the arm of your coat. If your shoulder blade is coming off your back, we call that winging. So if there's a difference in that from one side to the other, and that movement is a little bit more restricted, or even if they're the same, but there's a difference in the shoulder blade positioning, that tells us more information as to one shoulder versus the other. Take a second, mark it down, or take a mental note of which side might have been painful with that movement, or which motion, whether it's the up and over your head or up and under, and then we'll move on to the next one. So the last one, as we talked about before, your shoulder structure and the shoulder joint comes together by the meeting of your shoulder blade, your rib cage, your arm, and a couple other bones on top. But we're going to focus on the rib cage. So we know that if your posture is affecting your shoulder, then some of the things we talked about before that Sarah did a really good job with noting is, if your posture is causing you shoulder pain, then there can be a restriction in your rib cage positioning or your rib cage movement. So what we're going to go through is below your neck is called your thoracic spine, and we're going to go through a rotation similar to the one that we did with your neck before, but now lower, to see if we can gauge if that's affecting some of your shoulder, potential shoulder symptoms. So what Sarah's going to do is, if you're seated in a chair, she's going to try with her arms either crossed, she can do, or if you want to leave them, if that's not a comfortable position, you can also give yourself like a self-hug. And she's going to try, without moving her knees or her hips, to rotate as far as she can to her right first. Good. Another thing that you can do to help avoid some of those excessive effort strategies we've been talking about is, if you put a pillow or a ball between your knees, that'll allow you to block your knees and your hips and your lower back from getting involved with this movement, to truly get an idea of how your rib cage is moving. So if she goes to the side, she's going to rotate towards the camera, keeping her arms crossed. What we're looking for with this is about 45 or 50 degrees each way. That can be hard to gauge. So if you aren't able to measure at home, you're looking for an asymmetry or a pain with this. So as we go to the other side, similarly to the neck, she'll start in the same starting position, and now she's going to try and turn to her left. good.
And so like Casey mentioned, the big thing, I put the pillow here because I don't want my legs to kind of cross like this. So, because you could push and kind of give yourself a false sense of more rotation so that the pillow kind of keeps you true there to how much your natural rotation is there in that part of your spine.
Right. And so to provide you with a real world example of this, so a lot of times we'll get patients in the clinic who, if they have a left shoulder pain or symptoms or something that's been going on, a lot of times their common complaint might be, oh, it really bothers me when I go to get my seatbelt on in the car. If you think about that movement, you're turning to your left and then you're reaching with that same sided arm, or even if it's the other arm, to grab the seatbelt and then, obviously buckle it. So if you're having pain doing that, then that might be an indication that it could be the rib cage mobility or movement that we're talking about, but it also could be the shoulder itself. Again, take the time to mark down if that was a painful movement for you, or if there was a difference from side to side, or if you felt one side was harder for you to do than the other. And we'll come back to it.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that. So it is really important to know what is causing that restriction. Is it your thoracic spine or is it your shoulder? Because if you just think it's your shoulder, you could stretch your shoulder over and over again. But if it's your mid back that's causing that tightness, then you're just making your shoulder hypermobile and you're not addressing the cause. So that's why we want to take a look, similar to with the neck and the shoulder and the mid back. Everything does impact each other, and you want to make sure you're addressing the problem. We always have one of our therapists that talks about a water stain analogy. I'm sure for those of you watching, you know who that is. But if you don't actually address what's causing that leak in the roof, you could just keep painting over the water stain so many times and you won't actually get to that root cause. So that's why we take all of these things into account, because it is a whole body assessment.
Right.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone marked down everything on their sheets. We'll have the form for you to fill out at the end. But right now, Casey and I just wanted to give you some tips for some things that you could do at home to help avoid any increase in neck and shoulder pain or prevent any injury. So one big thing, and I did this right now for myself, I had to elevate my computer because you want your computer monitor to be at eye level. So you don't want it to be down. Like we mentioned before, that could be a lot of stress on your neck. And you want to use a chair that has back support. If you don't have a chair that has back support, you can take a towel. You can roll the towel up and you can put it right in the small of your back. So that gives you a little lumbar support. You could do that when you're driving in the car, if your car seat doesn't have lumbar support. So all those, you could just need a towel to do that. A big one, when you're texting or scrolling through your phone, we all have a tendency to hold it down here. I'm notorious for laying on my couch and doing this. So it's really 2 for 1 there.
Double whammy there.
Yeah. So if I just bring my phone up, so it's right at my eye level, similar to the computer screen, that's going to help prevent my neck from getting injured any further. And I have one more that I'm going to go through with my towel roll again. So one thing, when you're sleeping, you can take your pillow and you can use that towel roll and you can put it right in the bottom of your pillowcase. So it looks like this. We all have this natural curve in our neck. So when we're sleeping, that will help support it and just give us a little more support. And that's better than having multiple pillows putting you in that negative position for your head. So those are a couple tips from me.
Right. A couple other things. If you are a reader out there, all my fellow readers out there, try to avoid, I know it can be hard, but try to avoid that position where you prop yourself up in bed to read. Or if you have your TV at the foot of your bed, if you think about how you have to set yourself up just so you can see, whether it's a couple pillows or if you're kind of makeshifted on the wall, that's a really stressful position for your neck. So like Sarah talked about before, you want to try and avoid that position. So similarly to your phone, if you have yourself think about 90-degree angles or square angles. So if I'm down doing the reading thing, that's a tough position. But if you can sit up, maybe if you have up against the wall or the frame of your bed and you can sit up and read that way, that's one way to kind of avoid some of these positions. Another thing is that anybody out there that has long hair, if you tend to put it in a bun or you put it up when you're just for work or whenever, if you're going to the gym, if you think about when you drive and you have the hair up, so if Sarah can show because she has longer hair than I do, if you think about that bun or that her hair being up on the head of her chair in her car, you think about how she has to navigate her head position just so she can see the road. Her head is already going to be down before she even starts the car. So then if you have to see or you have to do anything like look over your shoulder, check your mirrors or anything like that, you're already in a position where you're pushing your neck to the limits of its mobility before you require it to do anything to help you drive. So a couple things, if you just let the hair go down when you're driving, it might be a better position for your neck, especially if you're going on a longer drive.
Yeah, I almost forgot my other tip. When you are going on a long distance car drive, I always suggest to everybody, you get in your car and you sit upright and you get in that optimal posture position. Adjust your mirrors at that position.
Right.
I know when I'm on a long car ride, if I set up my mirrors before and then I get like halfway through and I'm like this and I can't see out of my mirror anymore, that means I need to sit up again.
Right.
So it's kind of like a self cue that reminds you that, wow, that really, I'm forward now. I got to sit upright. So
Right.
that's another tip in the car.
And another thing that I'll tell patients of mine similarly to that is change your mirror right when you wake up in the morning. So when you get up and go to work, that's the tallest you're going to be the entire day. That's what the research shows. So if you adjust your mirror to that point and then you go through work or say, you're working from home right now and you have to, run somewhere or whatever the case is, don't just get in the car at the end of the day and adjust the mirror. Adjust yourself because in theory, you haven't changed too dramatically, but if you adjust the mirror, you're just taking that easy position of comfort and you're probably putting your head and your rib cage in a compromising position. So that's another way you can navigate the car.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Were some cool tips for everybody. I know there have been a couple nights where I've done the towel and the pillow trick because like I mentioned, I've noted as I'm on the computer more, I've had to utilize some of these things myself. So,
right. Anything else you want to add in there, Sarah?
No.
Okay. So just to backtrack, if you marked up any of those movements, whether it was in the neck, going up and down or side to side, or it was with your shoulders, raising them up, rotating like Sarah demonstrated, or rotating your thoracic spine or your rib cage. If you marked any of those up, that may be something that you want to look into, especially if you had multiple areas that caused you pain or asymmetry, or you had that excessive effort that we were talking about. After going through the form or kind of going back in your mind of which ones were painful positions for you, if you decide it's something you want to be proactive about and address it, we are offering free screens in person and via telehealth, which would be similar to this. It'd be on FaceTime or Zoom or to help you kind of gauge what may be the cause and how we can nip it in the bud before hopefully things start to transition back to a somewhat normal situation here and you venture out and start doing more things, especially as the weather gets nicer and things allow us to. You want to get it taken care of now as opposed to it inhibiting you in your your golf season or whatever you normally do during the swing of the summer. So we just wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your morning. I know it's a beautiful day out there. We encourage you to get out if you can. This video will be posted on our Facebook page following this stream. If you want to revisit it, recommend it to someone, think it might help anybody that you might know, you'll be able to go back to it, and the form that goes along with it will be posted as well, so you can follow along at another time. Yeah, anything else you wanna say, Sarah?
No, thank you guys so much for joining us. This is, like I said, the first time we've done this, so I hope you found it useful. Casey and I have been excited all week to hang out with you guys on your Saturday morning and kind of help you identify what's causing those aches and pains that you've been having. So just thank you for spending time with us today.
Yeah, everybody enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, and if anyone does have any questions like about the form, Casey and I are going to hang out for a couple minutes. So we will be right here if you guys do need any help with anything. Okay? I'm trying to look through some of the comments too. Now that I can.
Okay, guys, I did post a form. I'm just wondering if anybody can reach it. So there are a few people who are still on. Can anybody click that form in the link that I posted? If you can, just let me know in the comments section. Can you guys see it on your end?
Yes.
I know it's hard.
There.
The form. Oh.
I think it's important for me to stress.
Hi, Elizabeth. Maybe you can help us. Can you see if you can click it and see if it sort of opens up? If we just want to make sure that it is usable, I guess, in the comments.
See a couple now. See it, cannot fill it out. I couldn't click on mine either. So we're going to get to the bottom of that.
All right. I'm trying to see if I can do that.
Oh, looks like someone did get it too. Yeah. Hi, Luann. If you're still there.